Revealed. The incredible truth about my daughter's fiancé after I secretly attended her wedding. Sarah stood in front of the bathroom mirror. The reflection staring back felt like a stranger. Her heart raced as she adjusted the oversized glasses that spoke of shrouded concealment. The church bells chimed, signaling the start of the ceremony. She wasn't just attending her daughter Emily's wedding. She was on a covert mission, driven by an instinct that refused to be silenced. Jake's affluent family thrived in a different world, and Sarah had her suspicions. The moment she stepped into the grand church, the breathtaking beauty enveloped her. Flowers cascaded like waterfalls, and crystal chandeliers sparkled like stars. She felt small. As Emily walked down the aisle, radiant in her traditional gown, every thread of doubt wrapped tighter around Sarah's heart. She had worked too hard to let her only daughter be swept into a world that could crumble under the weight of secrets. It wasn't merely about class, it was about the fragility of trust. As the vows began, Sarah's instinct kicked into overdrive. She scanned the crowded pews, catching snippets of conversations that suggested uncertainty. Whispers about Jake's parents, rumors of gambling debts, and financial mismanagement gnawed at her edges. What if Jake inherited a life built on falsified stability? Should she expose these doubts on a day meant for love? As a waitress at the local diner, she had fought for Emily against the odds of a broken family, pouring every ounce of herself into raising her. And now all she felt was vulnerability. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, a shocking revelation tumbled from the mouth of a family friend. Jake's cousin had once been a promising law student, now marred by an arrest that sullied their family name. Panic surged through Sarah. The seeds of doubt her instincts had planted began to sprout, twisted into painful possibilities of heartbreak, lying just beneath the surface. If Jake was entangled in this web of privilege, was Emily diving into a tempest of potential betrayal? The air thickened around her as the ceremony reached its climax. Every moment felt like a decision. Would she stand up and reveal what she had heard? Would her relentless devotion bring chaos to her daughter's joy? The bright smile Emily wore seemed to mock Sarah's growing fear. In that instant, when Emily's eyes met Sarah's, clarity struck. Her upcoming choices, the slim line between protection and suffocation, intensified within her. No words would ever bridge the chasm that threatened to become a reality. The world around her faded to silence, leaving her alone with the heaviest question of all. How far would she go to shield her child? And would this truth, suppressed within her very chest, break their bond forever? Sarah found herself standing frozen, a mere spectator caught in an emotional maelstrom. The echo of vows filled the air, yet each word spiraled her deeper into turmoil. Time slowed, her heartbeat mingling with the resonant tones of I do, but her mind raced ahead into a void of dread. The decision weighed upon her like a heavy cloak, smothering any lingering joy that could have been derived from the joyous occasion. She wasn't merely weighing her options. She was unearthing the very roots of her maternal instinct. Should she disrupt this once-in-a-lifetime moment, unveil hidden truths and risk shattering her daughter's happiness? Or was it noble to protect Emily, thrusting her into the fray of unknown peril in the name of love? Understanding dawned within her. The gravity of motherhood did not solely lie in love, but in safeguarding futures. The flowers, the music, the smiling faces of friends and family faded. All she could perceive was the potential consequences of silence. Her hands trembled as thoughts spiraled out of control, questioning her capacity to be both mother and protector. As the final chords of the ceremony echoed away, Sarah's mind whirred. Tasteful glances from the guests blurred, transforming the room into a kaleidoscope of foreign judgments and lingering gazes. Relief washed over Emily upon being pronounced married, but it felt like a riptide to Sarah. The reception that followed was a blur of laughter and clinking glasses, yet Sarah remained ensconced in her own thoughts. Each time she caught Emily's delighted expression, elation shifted into a tightening vice at the base of her throat. It wasn't just about Emily's new life. It was about the shadows lurking behind that life. Could she truly let this bond be forged when there existed so much she didn't know about Jake? She distracted herself by pouring a glass of champagne, pretending to enjoy the festivities. Conversations around her became mere background noise, a tapestry of joy contrasting sharply with the turmoil spiraling inside her. Stealing her nerves, she finally approached Jake's family. Their aura of fashion and sophistication seemed intimidating and yet profoundly alien. She introduced herself and attempted to engage in casual conversation, her ability to keep emotions at bay waning with each polite smile he offered. Yet, what stung most was the realization that her daughter was enamored by this world that Sarah didn't belong to, this world where secrets could thrive amidst well-pressed suits and designer gowns. A flicker of anger ignited within her. She questioned her failure to prepare Emily for possible betrayals hidden behind all that glitters. Sarah had made sacrifices for Emily's future, a future she had envisioned painted in mere practicality and unwavering resilience. She had made a life for them both, and now here she was on the brink of losing all she held dear. Minutes stretched on and gave birth to urgency. Each cheer for the newlyweds felt like daggers ripping at her resolve. A soft voice inside whispered that she owed it to Emily, a fatherless girl with no sense of a secure lineage to protect her from blindsiding love. Sarah's thoughts coiled back to the rumor her mind couldn't shake: the cousin's downfall, the whispers of gambling debts, and trust teetering on the edge of an abyss. Amidst the swirl of celebratory fervor, a commitment forged in duty began to crystallize. To confront them, she whispered to herself, barely audible over the clamor of joy, to demand honesty. Was she ready to peel back the layers of pretense, no matter the risk? The impending confrontation gnawed at her chest, demanding resolution and clarity. Her next move shimmered with uncertainty, yet forged with determination. If this was the world Emily chose to step into, Sarah would dive deep, unearthing every truth hidden beneath its glamorous surface. As she turned her gaze toward the exuberant couple, a cascade of possibilities ignited within her. The moment of revelation awaited amidst a sea of false pretenses, and Sarah was poised to stalk the shadows, ready to confront whatever lay hidden just beyond the facade of happiness. The clinking of glasses echoed around the lavish hall, but to Sarah, it felt like a cacophony drowning the clarity she desperately sought. Her stomach churned as she moved deeper into the throng of revelers, the laughter around her almost mockingly bright. She finally settled near a quieter corner, where the lighter tones of the reception faded, leaving her to wrestle with her resolve. Her mind raced through the fragments of conversation she had overheard throughout the evening. Friends of Jake mentioned names that pinged like alarm bells in her memory: stories of lavish parties, whispers of debts, and the shadows cast by risky situations. Each reference echoed through her like a siren song, beckoning her back to that once innocent idea of happiness that now felt irrevocably tainted. Thinking of Emily, her heart squeezed tightly. Each rush of enthusiasm Sarah took in the celebration oozed through her fingers like sand. She couldn't afford more unanswered questions. Was this the life Emily had dreamed of, filled with glitz and potential danger? The thought sent shivers down her spine. She needed to gather her thoughts, to forge a strategy that would lead her through this intricate web of familial ties and hidden motives. Taking a deep breath, she resolved to gather hard facts. Her hand steadying around her glass, masked the storm brewing inside her. She could blend in with Jake's family. She had an innate sense for social dynamics, an instinct honed through years of careful observation and subterfuge when necessary. The evening's conversations drifted into a feigned calmness as she made her way toward the farthest end of the hall where gathered Jake's uncle and a few of his cronies, their laughter low and conspiratorial. Approaching as if she were simply looking to join in, she plastered a smile onto her face, one that didn't quite meet her eyes. As she listened intently, each word began to unspool threads of truth. They spoke of business ventures, hinting at risky moves, and the implications of those choices that could trend downward. This was the raw material she needed. Information was her weapon. Quietly, she fact-checked, pulling from her own experiences as both a mother and a woman who had faced many adversities alone. With measured humility, Sarah nudged the conversation toward common interests. Casual mentions turned into deeper inquiries about the family legacy. A gut feeling nudged her forward. Secrets bubbled just beneath the polished veneer of jovial chatter. Hours unraveled as she coaxed revealing snippets from the fragments of their banter. The truths that unfolded began to paint a more menacing picture, a network built on pretenses, disguising the darker realities lurking behind their smiles. Each revelation cemented her resolve to protect Emily, to stand firm against anything hidden behind the charisma exuded by the new family her daughter had chosen. Yet, just as she felt the grip of clarity tighten, an unease flared within. If things were as dire as the whispers suggested, what was her next move? How far would she go to safeguard her daughter's future? She had unearthed knowledge, but wielding it without further damaging her relationship with Emily terrified her. As she mulled over her findings, a shadow crossed her mind, Emily's unwavering belief in love and family, shadows she had painted in her heart. Had she grown up simply enraptured by the fairy tale, far removed from the impending reality? The gravity of her mission surged forward, igniting within her a fierce light of determination as Sarah realized she could no longer just observe. The time had come to excavate those buried truths and present them with clarity and compassion to Emily. But how could she ensure that her daughter would listen, that she wouldn't dismiss her concerns as mere maternal worries? The stakes were impossibly high as the final song of the night drifted through the air. An inner voice hardened within her. Sarah wasn't going to just raise questions. She would become an instrument of truth. And it was in that moment of clarity that the next movement crystallized. Sarah understood that to protect Emily's future, some hard truths had to emerge into the light of day. But at what cost? Tomorrow would demand a confrontation, and as she seized the flowing rhythm of the evening's conclusion, one question echoed through her mind, demanding an answer. Would Emily still trust her when the truths unfolded? The next morning dawned with heavy clouds, mirroring the tumult in Sarah's mind. The weight of her discoveries settled like a stone in her stomach. Over coffee the steam curled into the air, but the warmth felt distant, elusive. She needed to focus, to plan her approach with precision, yet anxiety tugged at her resolve. Hours passed as Sarah prepared herself for the conversation with Emily. She paced through the house, reviewing every potential outcome in her mind. Could she expect her daughter to be receptive? Likely not. After all, this was her happiness at stake, a future she had dreamt of without the shadow of reality intruding. Love often demanded a blind eye be cast over truth. Was she willing to shatter that illusion? She could already visualize Emily's reaction: hurt, disbelief. Would she see Sarah as the villain, tearing apart her fantasy? The thought clawed at her insides. But reality was not an enemy. It was the key to her daughter's safety. The stakes had shifted drastically. This was not merely a familial concern. This was her daughter's life. Standing before a mirror, she steadied herself. The woman staring back was no longer the hesitant participant in this game. She was a contender. Painful truths could foster awareness and strength. The challenge was not merely about the facts, it was how to deliver them. Empathy would be her shield, understanding her sword. Through the fog of worry, the image of Emily wide-eyed with innocence and trust galvanized her. When the clock finally ticked closer to noon, Sarah sought the perfect moment. She found Emily lounging in her room, daydreaming amidst the chaos of wedding plans sprawled across the bed. With every step she took toward her daughter, the weight of her mission intensified. There was a thin line between protecting her daughter and crushing her spirit. "Can we talk?" The simple question escaped her lips, faint yet charged with purpose. Emily shifted from her blissful reverie. A flicker of curiosity crossed her features. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" She smiled, but the light didn't reach her eyes. Sarah swallowed, the unease wrestling within her. She gestured for Emily to sit. "I overheard some conversations last night about Jake and his family." Emily's expression shifted, a wall rising behind her gaze. "What do you mean?" "I think you need to know the truth about your fiancé," Sarah began, each word carefully chosen like notes in a melody. The gravity of her claims loomed heavy between them. "I heard talk about debts, risky investments, things that don't match the image he's projecting." Emily's brow furrowed, indignation blossoming. "You must be mistaken. Jake is different. He loves me and he's good at what he does." The argument pushed against the barricade of Sarah's heart. "Emily, that's exactly what I worry about. Sometimes love can blind us to the dangers surrounding us. I want you safe, not swept into something destructive." The moment trembled with tension. Emily's disbelief rippled into stubbornness, her defiance manifesting in crossed arms. "Mom, you're just trying to protect me. But I can't live in fear of what might happen. I believe in us." In silence, Sarah realized the distance between their experiences. Love, for her, had been a battlefield with scars worn openly. To Emily, it was a promise wrapped in dreams. Was she prepared to let Emily's belief blossom unharmed? Or did her responsibility as a mother outweigh her daughter's naive but ardent hopes? What if it isn't what it seems? The question hung heavy in the air. Emily remained resolute, a fortress built from unwavering affection. That conviction took root in Sarah's heart, stirring a wild mix of pride and dread. Her daughter was strong, yet blind to the potential adversity present. "When will you be willing to open your eyes?" Sarah pressed, desperation creeping into her tone. The silence echoed, a chasm not easily crossed. As Emily rose, retreating into defiance, Sarah saw the bridge of trust begin to fray further. Yet the determination ignited within her. She would continue to fight for Emily, even if it meant shaking the foundations of their relationship. The question that lingered now was how far she would have to go to protect her daughter, what measures she would take to reveal truths potentially hidden beneath the sparkling surface. Steeling herself for whatever the future held, Sarah knew she had only scratched the surface. The next confrontation loomed large. A direct clash with Jake was inevitable. With each action, she sensed the irrevocable change ahead, the path spiraling into an unexpected revelation. Had her discovery merely been a prologue to a much larger confrontation? Would Emily come to understand that truth was a weapon, not a foe? Sarah spent the night poring over her options. Tossing and turning, her thoughts hovered around the confrontation she needed to have with Jake. She didn't just want to uncover the truth. She needed to assert her authority as a mother, to instill in him a sense of respect for both Emily and herself. The image of Emily's trusting smile haunted her, a light she couldn't extinguish without a fight. The next day began with a sharp focus. After gathering her scattered thoughts and fortifying her resolve, Sarah entered the kitchen, the light flooding through the windows just as clarity pierced her mind. She made a mental list. Questions to ask, facts to present, and an unwavering stance to maintain. In a landscape of uncertainty, she could at least prepare her approach. Her first order of business was to discover Jake's whereabouts. She considered how to integrate herself into Emily's life without raising suspicions. It wouldn't be easy, especially after yesterday's debacle when Emily had chosen her feelings over potential danger. Empowered with newfound determination, Sarah set off to have a casual chat with one of Emily's friends, hoping to gather information about Jake's daily schedule. As she entered a nearby cafe where Emily's friend often hung out, Sarah's heart raced at the prospect of gathering intel. The small bell above the door chimed, signaling her entrance. She settled into a corner booth, the muffled conversations around her blending into a backdrop of unease. Sarah felt almost like a covert operative, her mission cloaked in secrecy. When Jessica arrived, her bright demeanor illuminated the dimness of Sarah's anxious thoughts. After the usual niceties, Sarah broached the subject. "So, how is everything with the wedding planning? Emily seems wrapped up in it all." Jessica's face brightened, but it quickly dimmed when Sarah continued. "Have you been around Jake much lately? I'm just curious about him and how he's fitting into all of this." The mention of Jake sent a flicker of hesitation across Jessica's face. "He's fine, I guess. I mean, he's really busy with work. There's been some talk about how he's been securing funds for the wedding," she replied, glancing towards the door as if anticipating Jake's arrival. Taking note of Jessica's unease, Sarah's instincts sharpened. "But everything's alright, isn't it?" "I'm sure it is," Jessica rushed out, her hastiness betraying her uncertainty. "But, people talk. There are always whispers about his family, and some people think he's a bit shady." "Shady?" The word hung in the air, ripe with implication. "Just you should talk to Emily about it. Make sure she knows who she's marrying," Jessica said firmly, avoiding further elaboration. Sarah's heart pounded. She had tapped into a deeper vein of concern, and that moment, Sarah realized that confronting Jake wouldn't just be about the odds and ends of his financial dealings, it would be a confrontation of values, a struggle for perception versus reality. It was about her daughter's happiness against his potential deception. Each realization felt like a seed planted firmly in her mind, sprouting new urgency as she left the cafe. Her chest felt lighter but her resolve heavier. The vision of Jake's charming smile no longer disarmed her. Instead, it ignited a protective fire within. The conversation swirling around him became undeniable threads in the fabric of her awareness, all leading back to Emily's fate. Now the objective was clear. She would confront Jake and demand answers, not just for her sake but for Emily's. But she understood it couldn't be a blind confrontation. It had to be strategic. She had to lead him to reveal himself, to coax the truth from his lips. The next morning would not just be another day. It would be the moment of confrontation Sarah had been preparing for. She made a mental note of her approach, each tactic pouring through her mind like a rehearsed script. She needed to be calm. Authoritative emotions were a luxury she couldn't afford. As night fell, she found herself staring at the reflection in the mirror once more. This time the face looking back was one of power and conviction. And on this battlefield of love and deception, she reaffirmed her resolve. Tomorrow was the day the facade would shatter. Would Jake prove to be the man Emily thought he was? Or would he emerge as the villain she feared? The air thickened with impending drama, the clock ticking down to their inevitable collision. In this game of truth and loyalty, the stakes had never been higher. The morning light broke through Sarah's bedroom window, bathing her in a mixture of warmth and urgency. Today was pivotal, the day she would demand clarity from Jake. Her mind raced as she recalled the information from Jessica, each whisper of doubt adding weight to her determination. It wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about unveiling Jake and safeguarding the future she envisioned for her daughter. As she dressed, she deliberately chose a blouse that spoke authority. A simple but crisp white, complementing her usual dark jeans, creating an outfit that blended professionalism with maternal care. She practiced her stance as she pulled on her shoes, a tactical movement to fortify her confidence. The time for passive observation had faded, and Sarah was ready to take the reins. Her first stop was the coffee shop where Jake often held meetings. It served as the threshold into his world, a comedic blend of domesticity and deception. As she entered, she felt her pulse quicken. She wasn't just skimming the surface. She was preparing to dive deep into murky waters. She ordered a black coffee, the bitterness matching the resolve forming inside her from her corner table. Sarah surveyed the room, noting Jake's usual habits, the faces of the people he mingled with. Many appeared jovial, yet she sensed an underlying tension among the group. It was the very same energy she had felt during her conversation with Jessica, an uncharacteristic anxiety that coiled around her heart like a snake. It lingered in the air, a warning that Jake was more than he seemed. Visibility was critical. She needed to strike at the opportune moment, a subtle but impactful placement in his day that wouldn't raise his guard just yet. Hours ticked away with her heart beating in sync with the ticking clock overhead. Then she saw him, striding through the door, hands animatedly gesturing as he spoke to a colleague. The charming smile he flashed didn't reach his eyes, and that slight line of stress shadowed his brow. She couldn't trust him, not when the stakes were this high. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Sarah made her move. She approached their table, an unexpected calm washing over her. "Jake," she smiled, her voice firm but tempered by a warmth born of concern. "Can we talk?" Jake's surprise morphed into a flicker of apprehension before he nodded, guiding her away from the table and to a quieter corner of the cafe. The moment they were isolated, the atmosphere shifted. This was her chance, but it would require deftness to navigate the conversation without tipping him off. "Sarah," he began with that disarming charm, but she didn't want pleasantries. "Not now. Jake, I need to understand who you really are," she said, her voice a carefully poised weapon. "Emily's happiness is at stake, and I can't sit idly by." The defensiveness in his posture was almost immediate. His face creased, attempting to mask the surprise with congeniality as he deflected her gaze. "What are you talking about?" His eyes darted away, the opening she had anticipated. "People are saying things. Concerned whispers about your family and your connection to this wedding," she pressed, feeling the tension shift from passive discomfort to outright resistance. "I've heard things about your finances, your past." He stepped closer, his tone low and edged with irritation. "This is ridiculous, Sarah. You know me. I love Emily." The assertion felt weak against the storm of questions swirling in her mind. "But do you truly love her? Or do you crave the image that comes with marrying her?" The silence that settled between them held an expansive space for confrontation. She saw something flicker across his face: anger, confusion, perhaps fear. Yet, behind it, a spark ignited her own conviction. She was no longer just a mother. She was a sentinel, fiercely standing her ground. "All I want is for my daughter to be happy," Sarah continued, her voice unwavering. "And you need to prove that you're worthy of that love." As the truth hung heavy between them, Sarah realized she was standing on the precipice of revelation. Jacob. Next words would either solidify her beliefs or shake the very foundation of what she knew. In this moment of tension, she couldn't help but wonder. What secrets lay buried beneath his charming surface that he was desperate to keep hidden? It was time for Sarah to find out, whatever it took. In the charged silence, Jake's expression morphed, becoming a mixture of indignation and fear, a duality that sent unease prickling down Sarah's spine. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing against her, almost as if the universe was conspiring to keep them both from confronting the truth. "Do you really think I'm hiding something?" he retorted, a thin veneer of bravado cracking as he shifted back. The defensive posture, the clenched fists, they all painted a vivid image of Jake on his back foot. Yet there was a calculated edge to his anxiety. "It's not about what I think, Jake. It's about what I know and what you failed to tell me. If you truly love Emily, why wouldn't you just be open with me? Share your past? Own your truths?" The words left her lips sharper than anticipated, intensity coursing through her as she attempted to break through to him. Each statement felt like a calculated strike in chess, urging him toward a vulnerable position. "I've made mistakes, okay? Isn't everyone entitled to that?" He shot back, his voice raising slightly, drawing eyes toward their corner. "But I've changed. I'm trying to build a life here." A glimmer of something, shame or guilt, flashed in his eyes before he steered his gaze to the floor, as if attempting to recede into himself. "Everyone has a past, Jake." Her voice softened slightly, aware of the emotional tug-of-war playing out in front of her. "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for honesty. For the sake of my daughter. For our family. But what if it hurts her?" The question hung in the air, revealing a nuance in him she had not anticipated. Suddenly, she felt the deep chill of empathy overtake her initial wariness. Did he fear the girl he claimed to love would be hurt by his truths? Ultimately, it will hurt her more if she finds out from someone else. "You know that," she countered, determination boiling beneath her calm facade. Seeking the truth could shield not only Emily but also Jake from consequences he had not considered. He grimaced at that, the flicker of belief dwindling in his gaze. "I don't want Emily feeling ashamed of me, or scared for the future." "Then let us face it together," Sarah urged, brimming with an unexpected assertiveness. "Dismantle whatever wall you've built, show her you're willing to be vulnerable." He held her gaze, a flicker of hope mixing with fear bouncing back between them. "You don't know everything my family isn't what you think. My finances? They're complicated. Complicated." The word struck a chord within him, resonating with Sarah's own chaotic thoughts. This was it, her opening. Complicated how, Jake? How far does it go? She pressed, suddenly keenly aware of her role not only as a mother but as the conductor of this delicate unraveling. "I don't want to scare you away, Sarah. Or Emily." But he hesitated, visibly wrestling with the weight of impending revelations. "But what? This isn't about scaring us off. This is about the truth." Her voice heightened, frustration creeping in. The clock was ticking, and time was a ruthless authority. "I might not be able to give her the life you envision," he finally admitted, eyes clouded. "With the wedding approaching, maybe it's best to step away. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, the happy family life." Each syllable punctured Sarah's resolve, an arrow sinking into the core of her conviction. "What does that mean, Jake? Are you saying I don't know if I can be what she needs? Or what you need?" he interrupted, voice strained as he avoided her gaze. A fresh wave of anxiety surged through her. This was the crux. The revelation echoed within her, twisting her sentiments into spirals of fear and clarity. This wasn't just about her. It was about Emily's future. The very notion of family was hanging in the balance. "Then what can I do? Help me help you figure this out. We both love her." They stood amidst the clamor of the cafe, their reality cloaked in the tension of unknown possibilities. Each heartbeat felt strained with the weight of potential consequences, threads of their lives intertwining in unexpected ways. As Jake opened his mouth to respond, the cafe door swung open forcefully, and a new figure entered the air sharp with the scent of change. Sarah's heart raced, not knowing what revelation would follow. Even as Jake's mouth formed words, a part of her began to brace for impact. What if Jake's past was about to collide with their hopes for Emily's future? The moment the door swung open, a rush of cold air tumbled into the cafe, accompanied by the hurried footsteps of a figure that turned every head. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as recognition washed over her like icy water. It was Miranda, Jake's sister, and that could only mean trouble. What was she doing here? Miranda scanned the room before her gaze landed on Jake and Sarah. The flicker of confusion in her eyes quickly evolved into narrowed suspicion. Her posture stiffened, suggesting that she sensed the tension hanging thick in the air. "Jake," she called, voice carrying an urgency that suggested she wasn't here for pleasantries. "We need to talk. Now." His entire demeanor shifted as he turned to face her, and Sarah watched him deflate, resilience draining from his body. In that instant, she saw layers of vulnerability collide with the weight of fear. Choosing this moment to confront their issues felt both courageous and reckless, the stakes amplified by Miranda's presence. "Can't it wait, Miranda? We're in the middle of something important," Jake replied. Yet his voice lost the fight against a tremor of panic. "No, it can't wait." She edged closer, a whirlwind of determination. "You've put this off for too long." Sarah's pulse quickened. She could feel her reservations bubbling to the surface, colliding with her instincts. This was the abrupt intervention they didn't need. Yet part of her welcomed it. Perhaps Miranda could shed light on the hidden aspects that loomed over Jake like an insurmountable cloud. "What did you mean by complicated?" Miranda's voice was flat, unyielding. "Is it true about your family's debt? You can't just ignore it, Jake." Each word she spoke felt like it reverberated through the very fabric of Sarah's reality. Jake's palms pressed against the table, as if seeking grounding from this upheaval. "I thought I could make it work. I didn't want you to worry. I can handle this." "Handle it?" Miranda scoffed. "By pushing everyone away? By pretending none of it exists?" She turned her gaze towards Sarah, eyes narrowing slightly. "What has he told you, Sarah?" Flashes of doubt raced through Sarah's mind. She felt exposed, a pawn caught in a game with higher stakes than she anticipated. The truth hovered just beyond her grasp, tantalizingly out of reach. But it was also becoming more urgent. This wasn't merely about Jake anymore. It was about Emily's future. "He hasn't shared nearly enough, if I'm honest," she found herself saying, surprising even herself with the vehemence in her voice. "But now that you're here, Miranda, maybe you can help fill in the gaps." A flicker of interest gained a foothold in Miranda's expression, a glimmer of her willingness to reveal more. "This isn't about filling gaps. It's about facing reality, Jake." The tension soared and Sarah took a deep breath, realizing each word uttered now carried the weight of their collective destinies. "What's going on, Jake? What examples of reality are we facing?" He looked between the two women, determination mingled with fear, as if weighing consequences with one hand while cradling hope with the other. "My family, it's not just debts. It's history, painful history that I've fought to escape. And now it's creeping back and jeopardizing everything." The mention of painful history tightened the knot in Sarah's stomach. Each piece she garnered pulled her deeper into the problem, yet she felt an undeniable tether pulling her forward. Jake's truths were unraveling at the seams, and the reality of what they both needed to confront was nigh. "Let us unpack this for Emily's sake. Don't let fear drive this wedge between us," Sarah urged, her tone steadying to bolster the raw energy of the moment. Jake hesitated, the battle playing out on his features. Okay, but their rehearsal of honesty was no longer within mere speculation. Jake's unresolved past was becoming far more than a whisper in the dark. Sarah sensed the enormity of the next revelation hovering just beyond their reach, the truth threatening to shatter the fragile hope they had built in darkness. As she looked at Miranda's fierce gaze and then back at Jake's torn expression, Sarah felt an undeniable urgency clouding their next steps. What was Jake hiding? "I can't do this alone," he finally said, almost a whisper, as the cafe noise faded into an unreal hush. "Then let us face it together," Sarah replied, bracing for the depths of whatever lay ahead. With heavy hearts, they prepared to confront the shadows of the past and the uncertain tumult of their intertwined futures. A storm was brewing, and its impending impact would test each of their limits in ways they could never have imagined. As the door swung shut once again, sealing them off from the world outside, the real questions loomed ominously in the air. What undeniable truths were about to emerge, and could they withstand the fallout? A heaviness settled over the table, palpable and suffocating. The air buzzed with anticipation as Sarah locked eyes with Jake, searching for a flicker of resolve within his fractured expression. They stood on the precipice of revelation. The depths of Jake's painful history threatened to swallow them whole, and Sarah felt a surge of responsibility surge through her. Her partner was teetering on the edge of a personal crisis, and she was ready to catch him. "Tell us everything, Jake," she urged softly, knowing they couldn't afford to tiptoe around the truth any longer. "You have to let us in. We can't fight these demons blindfolded." He squeezed his eyes shut, as if summoning strength from within before facing the storm. With a slow exhale, he began to unravel the thread of his family story. "Years ago, there was a scandal, an affair that ultimately led to my father's breakdown. We lost everything financially and emotionally. It was supposed to be a secret, but secrets have a way of surfacing at the worst moments." As he spoke, Sarah felt her heart racing, a torrent of empathy washing over her. The shadows of his past, dark and twisted, painted a bleak picture, yet here he was, considering the possibility of laying it bare before them. Miranda leaned in, her expression softening slightly. "But you can't keep running, Jake. That only perpetuates the cycle. If we don't confront this, it'll only drag you back down to where we once were." Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of those words. The cycle of fear, shame, and avoidance felt all too familiar. How many times had she buried her insecurities in the same dusty corners, hoping they would simply vanish? She realized now that change could only come from confrontation and vulnerability. "Why now?" Jake's voice trembled, as if the weight of years was pressing on his chest. "Why does it have to be right now?" "Because, Jake, we're standing at a crossroads. Your past is breathing down your neck. You can't allow it to dictate your future, especially when Emily's happiness is on the line," Sarah replied, her voice steady but frayed at the edges. This was bigger than just Jake's personal turmoil. It was about crafting a legacy of strength for their daughter. Miranda wiped her eyes, determination replacing her initial stiffness. "I've watched you fight alone for so long. You don't have to do this in isolation. Let us be a part of your healing." The surge of love that flowed from Miranda filled a space that had once been fraught with distrust. Together, they were ready to mobilize against the ghosts of Jake's past. Sarah sensed that their collective strength could forge a new path, one built on transparency and support. "Okay," Jake relented, his voice barely a whisper. "Let us do it. I'm ready to face my family, my history. I can't be the weak link anymore. I want to stand strong for both of you." This was the epiphany moment Sarah had hoped for, igniting a fresh resolve within her. She had known from the start that Jake possessed untapped reservoirs of resilience. It was now evident that this realization could trigger a transformation powerful enough to break the cycle. But as they huddled around their small cafe table, arms metaphorically intertwined, Sarah's thoughts spiraled into practicalities. The groundwork of change stretched far beyond confessions. It would necessitate plans, strategies, and perhaps confronting adversaries who thrived in the shadows. "Let us map this out," Sarah proposed. "We'll need evidence to move forward. If we're going to face your family and the consequences of their actions, we should prepare ourselves, not just emotionally, but also legally." Jake nodded, resolve deepening. Yet anxiety skittered beneath the surface of his calm. What lay ahead would require every bit of courage he could muster. Never before had such a moment beckoned so insistently. As they began to discuss next steps, a chill swept through the cafe as the door opened again, drawing their attention. A figure entered. Sarah's heart sank as she immediately recognized the new arrival, Jake's father, the very embodiment of the shadows they had vowed to confront. "Interesting gathering you've apparently arranged," he sneered, dark eyes scanning the scene. In that moment, Sarah felt the walls close in around them. They were no longer merely discussing plans, they were thrust straight into the storm, and there would be no turning back. The true test of their resolve was about to commence. How would they navigate this confrontation? And could they maintain the strength they had just forged against an adversary who had once been indomitable? Sarah stood resolute, her heart racing as she faced the very man whose actions had spawned the turmoil they now sought to untangle. Jake's father had entered, exuding an air of arrogance that threatened to unravel the fragile peace they had begun to construct. The atmosphere crackled with tension, each breath heavy with impending confrontation. "Dad," Jake said, his voice strained, "what are you doing here?" "I could ask the same of you," his father shot back, eyes narrowing as he absorbed the atmosphere. "What is this little family gathering about? Planning to discuss my business?" "Actually, yes," Sarah interjected, her voice steady despite the nervous energy coursing through her. "We're discussing truths that need to emerge." "Truths?" He laughed derisively, the sound echoing with disbelief. "You think you can stand there and demand truths from me? You know nothing about this family or the stakes involved." In that moment, Sarah felt a mix of fear and determination strengthen within her. The facade of Jake's privileged upbringing was crumbling. The cracks in the polished surface of his family history were wider than she had anticipated. "No, I don't know everything," she continued, emboldened. "But for too long people have suffered in silence, fueled by fear and deception. Emily deserves better, and it's time to confront this head-on." Jake's eyes flickered with conflict. "Dad, we can't keep skirting the truth. It's hurting everyone we love, including you." "Spare me your melodrama," his father retorted, clenching his jaw. "You've always been weak. You think I'm going to allow this to come crashing down? The family is my responsibility, and you've handled that responsibility so well," Sarah countered, gesturing toward Jake, whose face was a mixture of anguish and resolve. "Hiding your failures only sets a dangerous precedent, one that can devastate those in your wake." For a moment silence enveloped them, the weight of honesty bearing down like a storm cloud ready to break. Jake stepped forward, bolstered by Sarah's raw conviction. "No more. It's time for accountability. If you can't face your past, then neither can I ensure Emily's safety in this future." His father recoiled slightly, the bravado waning. "You dare?" "Yes," Jake interrupted, a newfound vigor igniting in his voice. "I dare to care about family, not the image you've sold me since childhood. The happiness of the people we love is paramount, something you never seem to understand." At that, Miranda spoke up, her tone unwavering. "We refuse to be complicit in your lies anymore. It's time for clarity, for redemption, or whatever it is you're too afraid to confront." The tension in the room had transformed, an energy that wrapped around Sarah and Jake as they stood shoulder to shoulder. This was not merely a battle for one person. This was an alliance forged in familial love that sought to break cycles of dishonesty and fear. Unraveling the past wouldn't come easy. "If you want to protect what remains of your family, then the time to change is now," Sarah pressed, urging Jake's father to realize the stakes. "You could become the father Jake needs, one who chooses honesty over fear." The old man's expression turned contemplative, perhaps even a glimmer of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "I don't know if I can change," he murmured. But something had shifted. The foundation of his assuredness had begun to tremble. "It's something you can try," Sarah encouraged, softening her tone. "What speaks volumes is your willingness to try. Admit your flaws and let us turn this cycle around. We can forge a new legacy, one built on trust and resolution." In that instant she saw the walls falter. The path towards togetherness was opening, a testament to the fight she had sought alongside Jake. Could this fractured family emerge from the shadows stronger than before? Jake stood a little taller, fierce determination radiating from him. "Dad, I believe in redemption, in rising from our mistakes. If you can find it within you, we can actualize a brighter future together for us, and for Emily." His father stood motionless, an internal battle etched on his face as he grappled with the decision before him. In all their vulnerabilities and shared histories, perhaps the first step towards healing lay in acknowledgement. Finally, the tension broke. "Okay," he said tightly, surrendering to the moment. "I'll do it. I'll face the past." A communal breath escaped their lips, the heaviness easing slightly. The flicker of new beginnings ignited hope in Sarah's heart. They might just have salvaged their chance at a new course. As they stood there, Sarah reflected on her own journey, the self-doubt, the battle within her to protect her daughter, and the ultimate realization that truth can frame not just walls but bridges. With a newfound clarity, she felt solid confidence return. She had achieved a measure of safety and security for Emily, paving the way toward a family capable of overcoming their shadows. After the confrontation, they started planning for the family meeting ahead, a new chapter of openness replacing the relics of secrecy. Sarah had proven, not just to Jake's father, but to herself, that vulnerability could forge strength, creating nurseries for hope instead of fear. As the day waned, Sarah walked out of the cafe beside Jake and Miranda, their faces illuminated by possibilities. They were bound together by a shared commitment to rewriting their futures, a force fierce enough to conquer the complications ahead. This journey toward honesty had transformed her. She was no longer just Sarah, a waitress clinging to her fears, but a mother unyielding in her commitment to create a loving future. Her authority had blossomed into strength, establishing a position within the family that would seek resolution over conflict. And now she stood proud, not as a participant in the shadows but as a pioneer toward light, radiating solid resolve. Embracing emotional clarity now felt like a promise instead of a burden, a fierce testament to willpower. It's time to embrace change. That was the legacy she would pass to Emily, a heritage shaped by honesty, compassion, and ultimately profound love. In that final moment before they moved forward together, a question echoed in her mind, a promise to herself that she would nurture the roots of resilience she had planted in both her and Emily's world. Now, as the story comes to a close, remember this. Heed that call, subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that transform lives. You need to leave a like now to feed this algorithm. Your simple click makes a difference. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness how overcoming trials shapes our destinies. Your engagement fuels the journey of personal growth. It lets us know that you stand with us on this path.